Hello and welcome back to the Fantasy Playmakers. What's up, guys? I'm going to be going through another start-sit video today, and it's going to be the wide receiver position. So breaking down every single Week 15 matchup and listing every fantasy-relevant wide receiver as a start or a sit. There are going to be timestamps down below if you guys just want to jump around, so you can check those out down in the description. But let's just jump into the Thursday night football game where we have the Chiefs taking on the Chargers. And for the Chiefs, pretty clear cut here. You're starting Tyreek Hill every single week, and then I'm just going to be fading the rest of those wide receivers in that wide receiver room. For the Chargers, I'm recording this expecting Keenan Allen to be back, but I guess it really doesn't matter either way. You know, if he's ready and good to go, he's a start. If he's not, you're obviously going to be sitting him. And I feel comfortable starting Mike Williams, whether or not Keenan Allen is out of the lineup. Now we have some Saturday games, actually. The Raiders taking on the Browns. For the Raiders, you keep plugging in Hunter Renfrow as honestly maybe a wide receiver one in PPR formats. The man is just a possession monster. Not interested in any of the other Raiders wide receivers. For the Browns, I've been fading that wide receiver room all season, but I do think Jarvis Landry is actually a decent play. This is not a shutdown Rams defense, and also there's just not a ton of weapons out there for Baker to throw to. I think Jarvis is the number one weapon there, so he's a start. Donovan Peoples-Jones has definitely had some nice outings, but I do think Jarvis is the number one, and so for that reason, he is going to be a sit. In the Patriots Colts matchup, I'm fading this Patriots wide receiver room. Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers. I guess you could throw Nelson Aguilar in there. Just don't trust any of them enough in my lineup. For the Colts, the only guy I want to talk about is Michael Pittman, and he continues to be a lock in fantasy lineups. There's like a solid, maybe mid to back end wide receiver to play. Moving on to Cowboys Giants. For the Cowboys, I'm actually going to be listing this big three wide receiver room, every single one of those guys as starts. So CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Michael Gallup. I think a few weeks in a row I listed Gallup as a sit, but he continues to get solid opportunities with Cooper and Lamb healthy. And he's not a super strong play, but like a wide receiver 3 flex option, you could definitely do much worse. For the Giants, man, just keep any of these wide receivers as far away as possible. Sterling Shepard sit. Kenny Golladay, what a disappointing season coming off of a huge contract. So sitting all of those players. Another pretty ugly matchup. Texans taking on the Jaguars. Only player I want in this entire matchup at the wide receiver position is Brandon Cooks. Continues to get it done despite their quarterback situation. For the Jaguars, fading every single wide receiver. Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, and Laquan Treadwell. We've got the Titans Steelers up next, and I listed Julio Jones as a start last week. That was the incorrect call. He really still just can't get going. A.J. Brown still has one more week before he can come off of the IR, so Julio is going to be a sit, unfortunately. Really just has not broken out. For the Steelers, you're starting Deontay Johnson as a really strong wide receiver one play. And then I listed Claypool as a sit last week. He did have a big game. Also managed to make some just boneheaded plays. He had a personal foul in the first quarter. And then on their final drive, he's like doing this big, long first down celebration when they're trying to get up to the line. Just not a smart player, but he's very, very talented. And so I definitely think he's like a wide receiver 3, probably high-end wide receiver 3 option, but someone that I do think you can start in your lineups. In a divisional matchup between the Jets and the Dolphins, I'm fading the entire Jets wide receiver room. Very unfortunate to see Elijah Moore go on the IR because the man was balling out. But now we're sitting here with Braxton Berrios, Jamison Crowder. Berrios is a solid slot player, but is just going to provide no ceiling on a week-to-week basis, and I don't think he's all that safe either. I could see Crowder having some decent games, but he hasn't really done it yet. So both those players are going to be sits. For the Dolphins, Jalen Waddle is a very, very strong start. And I'm actually going to be listing Devontae Parker as a start. In between all these injuries and stuff, he still has been producing fairly solid as a fantasy wide receiver. So kind of like a Claypool range, wide receiver 3, flex play. Washington is then going to take on the Eagles. And if Terry McLaurin is good to go, we saw him exit on Sunday. He is going to be a start. He actually exited with a goose egg in the second half, so he was not playing well, but I think you just continue to fire him up. Honestly, at this point, as like a back-end wide receiver 2. Devonta Smith, more of a wide receiver 3 in my opinion. I'm probably lower on him than others, but with Jalen Hurts there, assuming he's back and it's not Minshew, he just doesn't have enough week-to-week consistency for me to really want to rely on him, but he is a start. Then we have the Cardinals taking on the Lions. Cardinals wide receiver room, super weird here. You have a different guy kind of playing well every single week. Obviously, you're going to start DeAndre Hopkins, assuming he's good to go. He was banged up at the end of that Monday Night Football game. And then I ended up going with A.J. Green as a start just because he was the guy who was seeing volume as the wide receiver 2. We've seen Christian Kirk in that role earlier in the season. We didn't really see it against the Rams. So Green's a start, D-Hop's a start. Christian Kirk is going to be a sit. And then for the Lions, I do think Amon-Ra St. Brown is like a fringe startable player. I am going to list him as a sit just because this is not an easy matchup. And then, maybe one more week of top-tier volume, he can be elevated to a start. And then the guys behind him, Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond, also are going to be sits. Moving on to Panthers Bills. For the Panthers, this quarterback situation is all over the place. Looks like they're going to go with a combination of Cam Newton and PJ Walker. I mean, it's just a mess, but DJ Moore still continues to produce. If we can get this man even like a top 15 quarterback, I really think we could see monster numbers. But until then, he's going to be like a mid to back end wide receiver 2 play. We saw Robbie Anderson probably have his best game of the season. I am still not interested in him at all. For the Bills, Stephon Diggs is obviously a clear start. And I'm just going to continue to sit the back 3, Beasley, Sanders, and Gabriel Davis. They all go on and off on having their own solid performances. So just not a lot of consistency from many of those guys. Then we have the Bengals taking on the Broncos. For the Bengals, you continue to fire up Jamar Chase and T. Higgins as really solid plays, and then sitting Tyler Boyd. For the Broncos, I'm just going to continue to fade every single wide receiver. This passing offense is just not good. So Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and Tim Patrick are all sits. Falcons 49ers is going to be the next matchup. For the Falcons, I think Russell Gage continues to be a solid start with Calvin Ridley out. And then for the 49ers, I don't even know if you can call Deebo Samuel a wide receiver anymore, but that's his designation for fantasy. So both Deebo and Ayuk are going to be solid starts as well. And then in a divisional game between the Seahawks and Rams, it's just going to be starts all over the place. For the Seahawks, Tyler Lockett is really coming on down the stretch. He's a locked-in start. DK Metcalf hasn't been great, but if we're being honest, we just cannot bench someone who is as talented as DK Metcalf. So those two players are starts. Then for the Rams, I feel confident with Cooper Kupp, obviously, and then Odell Beckham and Van Jefferson. I like both of those guys in my lineups also. Then in a really nice matchup here between the Packers and the Ravens, for the Packers, Devontae Adams, clear-cut start. And then I'm going to be sitting Allen Lazard and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. It seems inevitable that there's always going to be one wide receiver on the Packers, not named Devontae Adams, who has a solid game. You just don't know who it's going to be on a week-to-week basis. Then for the Ravens, we don't know if Lamar Jackson is going to be playing. I do think they are optimistic that he's going to be able to go with that ankle. Either way, I don't think it changes much. Marquise Brown hasn't been putting up those monster numbers as of late, but I still think you fire him up as a wide receiver 2 play. And then Rashad Bateman had a really nice bounce-back game, over 100 yards. The consistency has just not been there, so he is going to be a sit. Then for Monday Night Football, we have the Saints traveling to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. I have no interest in any of these Saints wide receivers. Traquan Smith and Marquez Callaway are both on the bench. For the Buccaneers, AB is serving his last game of his suspension, so you continue to fire up Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, both as wide receiver 1s. And now we're at the final matchup of the week, a divisional game, Monday Night Football, Vikings traveling to Soldier Field to take on the Bears. For the Vikings, I'm assuming that Adam Thielen is still going to be out. If he is not out, then Adam Thielen would be a start. Obviously, Justin Jefferson is a high-end wide receiver 1, but if Adam Thielen misses, I do think you can trust KJ Osborne as like a wide receiver 3 flex option. For the Bears, just not interested in Darnell Mooney or Allen Robinson. There's just not enough passing volume to support both of these players, so sitting all of those Bears pass catchers. That is going to wrap it up for this video. Every single week 15 matchup. If you enjoyed the content, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you have not yet seen it, go check out my running back start sit that is already up on my channel. But thank you guys for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one.